Hey, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Jack and Glenn channel. I'm Glenn. Tonight we're reviewing Ready to Love, Make a Move, new show, new spinoff from Ready to Love. If you enjoy Ready to Love, I know I'm cutting late a couple weeks, but we're gonna get into that. We're gonna catch it up, and we'll start reviewing Ready to Love, Make a Move right now. Hey, uh, talk about it. Before we get started, make sure you hit the subscribe button, hit the bell notification so you don't miss any of our reviews. Check out some of our past videos, join our membership. Make sure you do all that stuff and check out and watch this video. Right. All right. It's all ready to love, make a move. We get introduced to our participants, right? Not our contestants, our participants, those that we are familiar with from the Ready to Love show. We introduced to Ashley, right? Ashley 36, who Ashley was on the very first season of Ready to Love. She ended up dealing with Alex, and we know how that situation went. She really fell in love with Alex, and Alex and her were like peas in a pod. Then she come to find out that Alex was a liar, right? Had house in somebody else's name, car in somebody else's name, had a sugar mama. She was heartbroken. We all love Ashley, right? Really energetic, bubbly, great, funny to be around. Then we're introduced to Zadia. We know Zadia from the DC season, right? She was part of what they called the Brown Girl Club, right? And she tried to live that down. Zadia, 37 years old, really she's from Atlanta, Georgia, but we saw her on Ready to Love DC. We have Sharice. Sharice is from the Miami season, right? Miami season of Ready to Love. She's 44 years old. She was the fire starter, right? She was the one who kept things going on that season of Ready to Love. Then we saw Venetia, who was from the Houston season of Ready to Love. 42. We all know Venetia. We fell in love with her and Joelle. We know that her and Joelle didn't work out. They only last about 2 weeks after filming, and so we were introduced to those participants. They get into this nice, beautiful house down into New Orleans, and then you see the host of the season, right? The person who's going to be the host or the I'm gonna say host of the season. We see Tamika Lee, who is a matchmaker, right? Tamika says she's been married, she has 3 kids, and so she's here to match these women with some eligible men in New Orleans, right? And it didn't take long. It didn't take them long to get to this process. It didn't take them long to get into the move of the show. She's like, "Hey, we got 25 men right now." And the women were like, "Oh, I'm not ready. I'm not dressed. I'm not." Fitting, but nonetheless, she allowed them to get dressed, allowed them to get hooked up, and she rolled in 25 men in the backyard of this house. And as she rolled 25 guys in the backyard of this house, the women had a choice to pick one. It was like high school all over again. Like it was high school, like you was picking for the kickball team, or you was picking for the flag football team. Like you had to pick which one that you wanted to be on your team. And we saw the ladies pick which one they wanted. We see Venetia, who picks Jabari, right? A bald head, bald head gentleman, 43 years old. Jabari, like, what took you so long to pick me? Got a little bit of smooth talker, as per se. She picks Jabari. We saw Ashley, who picks another bald head, light skinned gentleman named Donald, who's a videographer. She picks him. He's 35. We see Zadia pick Richard, who's 41. He's the assistant principal. And then we saw Sharice pick Antonio because he was dressed in a blue suit, right? He's 38 years old, and he is a military Marine officer. We see those. You start to see the rest of the guys go away. They go away. They go away, and now these women and these 4 guys are intermingling within the house, conversing with one another. We see Donald and Ashley converse with one another, and Ashley's asked Donald a very simple question, and my man Donald gave an answer like he had memorized that junk all week long, right? He gave the answer, "You're so beautiful, you're so kind. I want to be able to involve with you and talk with you." It seems so fake and scripted that you're like, okay, that's good. Now give me your real answer. Like, who are you for real, right? Like you gave me a pageant answer. That's the answer that people give when they're on a pageant, right? That's the answer that people give when they're like you have been thinking about this and that you wrote this down on your hand. Give me the real answer. But nonetheless, they had great conversation. She told him she's looking for a real relationship. Zadia and Richard go outside and they have a conversation. And Richard seemed dried of not Zadia, right? She didn't want the 50 million question when you first meet somebody. What do you do? What's your 5-year plan? Richard made a mistake, very first mistake he made. He didn't even ask her name, right? You can tell Bro was a little bit nervous as a principal. He was a little bit nervous when dealing with Zadia. Maybe her confidence in herself made him nervous. But again, the conversation really didn't go too many places. He asked her, like, what's your 5-year plan? Who asked somebody, where do you see yourself in 5 years on a date? I ain't been on a date in like 22 years outside of my wife. So I don't know what it's like to date somebody new this year, but I know when we was dating, I never asked her what her 5-year plan was. But again, maybe it's a new age of dating, new way to doing things. But I'm not gonna ask somebody on the first date, "What's your 5-year plan?" That sounds like you on a job interview. What's your 5-year plan? My plan to be president of the company in 5 years. I mean, come on. These are the type of things. Hey, get to know you. Where you from? What's your how your family like? What you do in your family? What you do in your spare time? What restaurants you like to eat at? Where you like to cook? Those type of things. Let me get not surface question, but let me get to understand you. What your mental state is, right? I need to know before we can even go even further. How do you handle yourself in stressful situations? Those type things. Those type of questions that I would ask. I don't know. I ain't been, like I said, I ain't been on a date with nobody different in 22 years. So different. Then you see Jabari and Venetia when they come, and they realized that they had a lot in common. Man, they both have a grown kid. They both their children go to Perry View, Perry University, Perry View University. I believe that's where it is. Perry View University. They both, have been in and out of Houston. Jabari said he'd been to Houston. He ain't been there as much as his daughter been in college, but he loves Houston. He loves Houston women. This is what they talk about later on when they end up going on a little bit on their date. But she's feeling Jabari, and so her and Jabari have a great conversation here. Then we see Antonio and Sharice interact in a relationship. He lets her know that he has 3 kids. He has 3 kids, and his 3 kids are one, and the youngest is being 4 years old. His youngest kid is 4 years old. He has a 13-year-old, 11-year-old, and a 4-year-old. He's 38 in the military. Sharice was like, "Oh, they hooked me up with the one with the kid," and she said, "Okay, I'll deal with it. Right? I'll go with it." Here's the interesting fact that we saw, because we didn't know this at the beginning of the show, that the ladies with these 4 guys, the ladies can intermingle and mix and talk to every one of them, right? So we see Zadia talking to Jabari. They have an interesting conversation. They begin to talk about, what it's like to, how she's feeling, what she's doing. She feels Jabari's conversation. He made her laugh with some confidence. And so she was laughing and giggling, better than the conversation she had with Richard, right? So then we see Tamika Lee comes back in. Tamika Lee comes back into the room, and she says, "Hey, guess what, ladies? You're going on a one-on-one date with these guys. It was good that you got to know them. But here's the catch. You can pick any man that you want to, right? You don't have to pick the one that you picked originally, but out of these 4 guys, you can go on a date with any one of them." Of course, Sharice picks Antonio. That's who she wants to go out with. Then you had Ashley, who picks Donald. That's who she's going out with. Venetia picked Jabari, right? And instead of picking Richard, you had Zadia, who picked Jabari as well, because she had a decent conversation with Jabari, and she wanted to see where it would go and how far it could take her and how far it would maneuver, right? So she ended up having that great conversation. And Venetia wasn't like upset or anything. She's like, "That's fine. We're here to create the sisterhood. We're here to find a man. And if she thinks Jabari is good for her, so be it. Let it work out. Let it move and do what it needs to do." Donald and Ashley end up going to eat some crawfish. He asked, basically asked her, what does she want in a relationship? And she said, "I want somebody honest, somebody who's not gonna lie to me, somebody who's gonna treat me right." She said, "You gotta understand, I got high energy, right? From 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. This is who I am." And he like, "What happens after 6 p.m.?" She actually becomes the demon. He said he likes her personality. He was caught up because of her charisma and the energy that she has. He said that's not typically his personality, that he's kind of more laid back and reserved. But again, they had a great conversation, and I can see this working, right? They kind of balance each other out. Only time will tell if Donald and Ashley will continue to move on. Because there is a catch when we get to the end of this video. There's a catch to what goes on in this show, Ready to Love. So again, Donald and Ashley, great conversation when they went out. Venetia and Jabari go to a like a little coffee shop. They talk about their kids. He tells her he used to be a former player, and he is a smooth talker, but he put those player things away. And Venetia wasn't upset by the fact that he used to be a player. She's like, we should all have that little bit of that in us, and he grew out of that, right? It'll be something if he was it was still at 42 or 43 years old, still being a player, but he's looking to settle down. He's looking to have somebody to be in his life. He's looking to deal with that. He says again, he's looking for somebody to be with him. She's looking for somebody to be with her, somebody in grown man status, right? She says she has no problem being what's the word I'm looking for? She's a boss all day, but she has no problem submitting, right? I know some people say that's a bad word. She has no problem submitting to a man and when he presents himself, right? She says she love her kids, she can be a homebody, but again, and that's something that her and Jabari will have to work on if their relationship continues. We see Antonio and Sharice, and this one right here went to a train wreck, y'all. It didn't go well. Sharice saw a lot of red flags when dealing with Antonio, talking, especially when it came to his baby mama. You're like, yo, you got a 4-year-old. So how do I interact? How is the baby mama? How is the 4-year-old's mother? Will she intervene? Will she be involved in our relationship? She said, I'm not looking for that. I don't want her to intervene in our relationship. Don't want her to be in a relationship. I don't want her to, don't get emails and phone calls about things. You have to deal with that. Totally understandable, right? 3 kids, 11, 13, and 4. You're going to be involved with their mamas, and I don't seem like they got the same mother. What it seems like their mother's different. Or the different mother. But also, when she found out, she asked him, "Have you ever cheated?" He said, "Oh yeah, we all been a cheater." He's a cheater. Red flag there. She didn't like nobody who used to be a cheater. Antonio, when I look at this, I'm like, yo, Antonio's out. He's out. Whatever she needs to do to get eliminate him. It's probably the last date they go on because it was just so many red flags, and Sharice wasn't feeling it, or was she having it with Antonio? We see Jabari and Zadia go out on their date. They went to like a coffee or like a little shop, whatever case may be. Person comes up to him, asking should they read tarot cards. Yeah, she's like, I've never had my tarot card read, and she was willing to read the cards. Now, the cards come back saying that both of them had decisions they needed to make, both of them had options they needed to make, which is kind of interesting. I guess that's the card that was flipped over that said that Jabari and Zadia had to decision they needed to make, but they had a conversation about relationship and kids, and Zadia said she wasn't open to having kids, that she didn't want any more kids, or that she didn't want any kids, and that if she needed kids, that she needed somebody to the doll needs some sleep, talking about her, that she didn't want to be getting up doing the motherly things and that type of stuff, that kids were not in her wheelhouse as of right now. Not saying that she wouldn't be open to talking about it down the line, but right now she's not interested in having kids with anyone, or she doesn't want any kids right now. Interesting show. They all go back to the house to Tamika Lee, and they begin to discuss uh, their dates. Well, before then, we see Zadia and Ashley at the pool as they're starting to build a relationship and bond. Ashley talks about how her and her family's the restaurant owners and how they own a restaurant. Talk about the passing of her father and how that has affected her and impacted her in her life. They create a good little bond there by the pool. Then they get back into the house with Tamika. Tamika Lee comes in and lets them know, ask them how their dates were. They explain the dates, talk about the dates, and then here come the twist. She said, "Look, the first date that I picked, right? I picked the first date for you guys, and no, you picked the first date for yourselves. The next date I'm going to pick for you, and we're going to have guys come in and guys that I picked for you that I think that you should go out on a date on. And then at the end of this process, you're going to have to choose either choose the one that I picked or to choose the one you picked. But you can't keep both. So you can keep one or you're going to drop one." And that where the show ended right there, with the young ladies being able to getting ready to have to pick between the men, getting ready to see the men that Tamika Lee picked. Very first good episode. I thought the show was a good episode. The very first one is a good episode. I think moving forward to see how this transpires and how this goes along, how the women can get along, what men they will pick, which men they're going to drop. I think it's a different twist to Ready to Love. I like the fact that they brought some of the women back that were that people like, that they enjoyed, right? I enjoyed Zadie on her season. I enjoyed Venetia. I was caught up in Venetia and Joelle. I was Charisse, in her relationship that she had. Ashley and Alex, of course, everybody was caught up in their relationship and how it panned out and when it panned out, the way it panned out. So thought the show was good. We'll be reviewing it for the rest of the season. So make sure you hit the subscribe button, hit the bell notification. Let me know what you think. One thing that Venetia said that I thought was interesting was, and Tamika Lee kind of checked her a little bit or gave her advice. She said, I don't want to do what I did the last time on Ready to Love, and that's fall for the very first person, right? We know that she fell for Joel from the beginning. Jabari is kind of on the same length, and Tamika Lee, like, why not? If that's how you feeling, and that's the way that it shapes out or pans out, then let it be what it is, right? Let it be what it is. Don't necessarily just always have to fall for, uh, follow your heart, and if your heart's telling you that he's the guy, then let him be the guy. So again, there was no beef between her and Zadia. Good show. Let me know what you thought. Hit the subscribe button, hit the bell notification, so you don't miss any of our reviews. Check out some of our past reviews of Ready to Love. Check out our stuff on Married at First Sight. Once again, appreciate you. Thanks for hitting the subscribe button. Thanks for hitting that bell notification. Make sure you share this with somebody else, and we'll catch you down the road. Appreciate you. Peace.